Now that I'm in my second year of college, I've been reflecting on one of the hardest days of my life. I've had many moments where it felt like the world was against me, whether it was stuff going on at home, pressure from school, or just nonsense on social media. If you're not familiar with what I'm referring to, it's what I call the kick out of 1020 incident. I've talked about it quite a few times before, most notably in Hello Future Me 2 and these past 4 videos Change Me videos. I'm going to walk you through what happened, but just to set everything, this all took place during my senior year of high school. At the time, I had my heart set on becoming a professional photographer after graduation, and I'm guessing most of you guys knew that part because I've mentioned it so many times. I was a photographer for my school's yearbook club, taking photos at sports events, mostly football and soccer during the fall season, which is when this took place. My mom didn't see any value in that, and neither did the rest of my family. They had their minds set on me becoming a mechanical engineer. We constantly clashed over my future, and honestly, my relationship with my mom had been strained since 2021, which didn't help. On October 19th, 2023, the day before everything happened, our argument escalated worse than ever. She was still furious that I didn't want to pursue mechanical engineering anymore. Not that I ever truly did anyways, I only did it out of obligation. That was usually how our fights went. The moment she realized she couldn't change my mind, she started bringing up things that had nothing to do with the actual argument. She's the kind of person who believes that being the loudest in the room makes you the most right and the most powerful. Out of nowhere, she started accusing me of doing badly in school, like I was in a gang, doing drugs, or skipping class. I couldn't believe it. I've been getting A's and B's all through middle school, and I worked my way up to straight A's during my first 3 years of high school. And are you telling me that you think I went through all that effort just to do some shit like that? She'd always had this habit of getting into my business, and my sisters as well. But instead of supporting us, it's always felt like she wanted to control the situation. There's a huge difference between being concerned and being nosy, and she never seemed to know where that boundary line was. Whenever I had a personal struggle or issue I was trying to work through, she somehow made it about herself. Instead of helping, it felt like she needed to be the main character of everyone's problem, which only made things worse. That night, she called me into her room to talk, and if you ever been summoned like that by your parents, you know it's one of the scariest things they can do. But instead of something new, it was just more of the same. She repeated everything we already argued about earlier. The conversation didn't end well. That moment was the final build-up before everything went down the next day. On Friday, October 20th, 2023, I was out taking photos for a school assembly. I normally have early release on Fridays, so when I didn't come home at my usual time, my mom started getting upset. The thing is, the assembly replaced the last period of the day, so technically I was still on school grounds during school hours, so I wasn't skipping or anything. I just chose to stay later than my early release to do what I love and needed. But clearly she was still holding on to the anger from the night before, so I just brushed it off and went on with my day, not knowing what was about to come next. There was a football game that night at 7 p.m., and I already planned to be there to take more photos for the yearbook club. That's also why we had the assembly earlier in the day, same as we always did for home games. It was part of the usual routine. When I finally got home from school after the assembly, I noticed my mom was calling me again because she was still upset, and I guess she realized that I finally came home. For some reason, she asked me to pull up my grades. I told her I got straight A's, and her, being hostile, wanted me to pull up a screenshot or a picture of my grades because I guess she didn't believe me. I could tell she was still upset, so I thought, alright, I'll just pull up my grades, send her a screenshot, and a call. The end. But while the site was loading, she kept rushing me, impatient, seeing my grades was like very urgent. I kept telling her to relax, just to wait, but that only made things worse. It was like every word I said made her more angry. She started saying I was ungrateful for all the love and support she and my dad had given me, that I should be thankful for a roof over my head, food on the table, and a luxurious life, as if all this has to do anything with what we're arguing about. Then she circled back to the mechanical engineering stuff, and I snapped. She shouted, "I'll put you on the streets." And without thinking, I yelled back, "Fine," and hung up the phone. I don't regret screaming that, because at that point I'd rather be on the streets than be at home with her. And this is why I never understood people who say family is everything or parents are everything. Because, let's be real, some parents are abusive, manipulative, or just plain selfish. I do believe family matters, but I don't believe every parent is the same. Not every parent is good, and not every child is good either. So I just don't agree with when people say parents are always right, are always kind, are always correct. No, that's not correct at all. They're humans. They're humans. They make mistakes. They do bad things just as other humans do. So let's not try to, make them seem like they're perfect beings, because they also have their flaws too. After the phone call, I started packing. I wasn't sure where I was going. I just knew that I needed to get away from the house. I had my sister on the phone the whole time. I needed her support, but she was 2 hours away at college, and as much as she wanted to help, she couldn't do much beyond listening. I was alone at that moment, but having her on the line reminded me that I wasn't completely lost, and I'm glad that she was there when I needed her the most, despite the distance. I didn't realize my mom was coming home early, so when I heard the house alarm go off, I panicked. She walked in and confronted me. I tried to leave, to just grab my keys, get in the car, and go. But before I could, it turned into a full-on tug-of-war. We were physically fighting over the keys, tugging, yelling, and just pulling it, yanking it from each other. She managed to wrestle the keys away from me, and I just left. I had to walk through my neighborhood. No real plan. Just heading towards the nearest gas station, which was only 5 minutes away, just trying to figure out what to do from here. And the whole time, my sister was still in the line. So for her to hear all what was happening, it must have been scary for her, because she can only hear, doesn't really see what's going on. I ended up calling a few friends too. One of them told me to just walk back home, which, by the way, freaking genius idea. But, I get it. When you're looking on the outside, especially as a friend, it's hard to know what to say or do, because you don't want to get in trouble as well. But still, that's like the last thing I needed to hear, dude. I ended up calling my friend Hannah. You guys probably remember for her from the past videos we've done together in Bloxburg. But she picked up and got her mom on the phone too, who happens to be my Spanish teacher. I was standing there at the gas station on the phone with them for nearly an hour, just trying to breathe and, just trying to relax and calm down. From what I remember, they ended up contacting the school administration too, since both Hannah and her mom were still on school grounds. I mean, this all happened just 1 or 2 hours after I got home from school, which made sense. I ended up walking all the way to the school. It took 40 minutes. The weather was terrible, and I was wearing Crocs, which made the whole thing even worse. This is when I was at my lowest. I don't think I've ever shared this detail or this type of topic on this channel before, but to get to my school, I had to cross a bridge over the highway. And while I was walking that day, I considered ending my life right there. I've been living with depression and anxiety since 2018, but that day I wanted to do it the most. If it weren't for my Spanish teacher, my friend Hannah, and my sister, I don't think I would have been here right now. I wouldn't still be making videos. I wouldn't be in college. I wouldn't have graduated high school either. But I'm grateful I didn't go through with it. I'm grateful I found something to hold on to. And if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts, or abuse, I'm going to link some resources in the description. And I encourage you guys to please use my story as a lesson to help others and spread awareness of those who are struggling and need support. At my school, there's a rule that students aren't allowed to contact teachers outside of their school email. Like no social media, no phone numbers, no nothing. I get why that policy exists. It's meant to protect students from predators and inappropriate relationships, and I respect that. But in situations like mine, where I was in a crisis and urgently needed help from a trusted adult, I kind of felt like that policy should have just no, it should not have applied. Educators aren't just lesson planners. They're also human beings. And sometimes a student doesn't need a friend, like the one who told me to just walk back and couldn't help. They need an adult who actually listens and understands. Someone who is responsible and mature enough to take care of the situation. The reality is, police don't help runaways under 18. And yes, I was 17 when this happened. I'm not saying we get rid of the boundaries. I'm just saying we should rethink of how those restrictions apply in emergencies like this. When I got to the school, my English teacher offered me to stay at his place. It was one of the few moments that day where I actually felt relieved. After that, I wanted to have his contact info, just in case. Same with my Spanish teacher, but the school's policy strictly forbade it. And even after I turned 18, nothing changed because I was still in high school, so the same restrictions apply still. It's wild. Students are expected to trust teachers with their futures, their grades, and even their college letters or recommendations, but when it comes to family emergencies and stuff like this, like toxic family disputes, they can't help us. And guess who had to make it worse? Guess who had to make it worse? The principal. The one nobody at my school liked. Not the staff, not the resource officers, which are literal law enforcement, not even us. Nobody at my school liked her. And this principal offered to help, but let's be honest, she wasn't capable of doing that. She wasn't a counselor. She wasn't someone who built relationships, real connections with her students. No. This was her second year teaching. Well, quote unquote teaching. And she hadn't earned that kind of trust. Still, I gave her a chance. I was desperate. Because, obviously, why wouldn't I? I was way too upset. She told me everything would be okay. She even hugged me when I broke down crying because I just wanted to sleep. And, just go home. Then she called my mom to the school. It was nearly 5 p.m. by then. And I still had the football game I wanted to shoot photos for her. And I never felt more betrayed ever. I always disliked her from the start, back in 2022. But in that moment, I put my trust in her. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd listen. She didn't. During the whole conversation with my mom, she sided with her completely. She blamed me for how I acted. What? My mom kicked me out because I didn't want to be a mechanical engineer. Something she wanted me to do. Not me. I stood up for myself. Told her I didn't want that future. And somehow I'm the one at fault for pushing back. All because I gave attitude. Seriously? That principal sided with my mom because I pushed back. Because I dared to argue instead of bowing down to the quote-unquote mighty goddess, which is exactly how she described her, who gave birth to me. It had nothing to do with the reason or the context of the situation. It was just about who she was, which was my mother. And to the principal, that automatically made her right in the situation regardless. As I've said before, not all parents are saints, and this principal is clearly one of those people who believes parents are always right, are always kind, are always justified, while kids are always the problem. That kind of thinking doesn't protect anyone. It just creates a generation of adults who never take accountability and who have big egos or will be manipulative and abusive in the future. That's how toxic patterns are passed down. I didn't lash out without reason. I defended myself from someone trying to control my life. And the fact that the one adult, allegedly an educator, who should have stayed neutral, chose to gaslight me instead. And that was the entire conversation. My principal spent it lecturing me about how I argued back, how I stood up for myself. Not once did she acknowledge what my mom actually did. So let me just get this straight. The issue isn't that my mom kicked a minor out of the house. It's not that she physically hurt me. It's not that she tried to force me into a career I didn't want. No, the problem was me for arguing back. What weed are you smoking? I even opened to her about my damn suicidal and depressive thoughts I had earlier that day. She didn't say a word about that either. She's not a real educator, let alone an educator. That was just salt in the wound. I had to apologize to my mom, even though she never apologized to me. And to this day, I still think I was the bigger person for doing that shit. My principal ended up telling my mom she had to take me back home. When I left her office, the two of them were still talking. I overheard her say, "Your son's a good kid." I freaking hate her. I freaking hate her. After the meeting, I went straight to the football game. I was a little late, still carrying my camera like nothing had happened, which is the ironic part. I took a few pictures, but I couldn't focus. I wasn't okay. I couldn't enjoy any of it. My friend Hannah was there, and when I saw her, I broke down. I told her everything. For the rest of the game, I stayed quiet, still tried to smile through it all while taking pictures for other people, but only Hannah knew what the fuck happened. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, my principal showed up. She found me at the game to check in. I asked her, "Why did you side with my mom?" She said, "Because it's your mom. You shouldn't have used that tone with her." When I pressed her for more, she hit me with, "Do you really want to do this right now?" As if like she wanted to start a scene in front of these people, or she wanted to blame me for starting a scene in front of these people. No, I'm not starting shit. You started shit. I thought her comments couldn't get any worse until she said, "I wouldn't have brought my child a camera." I looked at her and asked, "Even if your child wanted to be a photographer, you still wouldn't?" And then you won't believe what she said. She said, and I quote, "I know many photographers who couldn't make a living. If you're doing photography, you're not going to be successful in life." I mean, seriously. That's what she had to say to a student coming off of one of those worst days. I'll ask you again, does that sound like a real educator to you? Because to me, an educator encourages their students to explore their passions and careers. But for her, it's clear that she didn't want me to. And just when I thought like the situation was like done, like what kind of principal discourages a student's passion like that? Even if you're trying to be realistic, you should not be telling that to young students. This is why she left halfway through her term. You know, I have no shame in saying it, but I hate her on a personal level. And on top of everything I told her straight up that I didn't feel safe going back home. She said, "If you don't, you'll get in trouble with the school." Let that sink in. Not only did she ignore the fact that I felt unsafe, she tried to threaten me with school consequences that legally cannot be applied to family disputes. Because here's the truth. The school can't punish you for something that happens between you and your family. That's not their property. That's not their jurisdiction. That's not their policy. I even asked the resource officer if she had the authority to do that, and they said no. That's not how the law works. Unless something happens on school grounds, the school has no right to discipline a student over a family dispute. So no, she's not just a bad educator, but she's not educated either. And at that point, I was more upset with my principal than with my mom. At least with my mom, I kind of saw it coming, and this behavior doesn't surprise me. But for the principal, really, that one surprised me a little bit. So much happened the following months after. Like, I got pulled into 2 high school dramas. One where a sophomore spread rumors and accused me of stalking her and taking pictures of her without her consent. So, yeah, it was completely false, by the way, and the lies already did the damage. Then the second one was when my senior class, they knew about what happened between me, my mom, and my principal. They supported me. But as soon as my photos were not good or I performed worse, they turned against me. They said I was trash. They harassed me online. They harassed my work. And they also post my photos without crediting them, even if they were bad, either way. So, which is just scummy from the senior class. And like I said, they knew what happened between me, my mom, and my principal. But they turned their backs on me just like that. I knew I would love college more because I actually got credited when my Vietnamese club posted my photography on their Instagram. Like I said, nobody in high school did that for me. I never told my other family members this, besides my cousins Tram, Carly, and Helen, and some of the younger ones too. My sister knew because of the call. My dad knew, but not the details of why and how it happened. October 20th, 2023 was the worst day of my life. And it almost became the last. The aftermath of what happened still impacts me 2 years later to this day. Since I spent my entire first year as an undecided major, now that I didn't want to do photography anymore, so I was just confused on what I wanted to do with my life. And now, in my second year, I still need to catch up with my IT courses that I was supposed to take last year, so everything's just being pushed now. And my mom, I don't know why, she asked me, why does it take 5 years? I don't know. I feel like I could have done it quicker if it wasn't for you and the principal and everyone else in this family giving me an existential crisis for 2 years straight. So no, yeah. Well, I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why. You tell me.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention in the video, but I wanted to forgive her since it's been 2 years since the incident. But recently, on my birthday of this year, by the way, she argued that she didn't feel like she was in the wrong and did not feel guilty of what she did whatsoever. I don't know, she just has a lot of things that she needs to work out. But I just wish she didn't do that on my birthday.